PCCD and OVS want to better inform and educate the field with the OVS Consolidated Standards. Pennsylvania has long been considered a leader when it comes to these operational standards that are designed to maintain quality services and programming delivered by skilled advocates and staff. The standards are meant to be a guide to BSPs for best practices and excellent service delivery, provide minimum expectation for BSPs, and ensure uniformity of service delivery across the Commonwealth. The standards provide the minimum expectation of victim service delivery and ensure professionalism of the victim services field. PCCD and OVS has launched a series of recordings that will walk program staff through our standards. The OVS newsletter will announce new recordings as they are available. Training on ethical standards will be presented in two parts, each being up to 30-minute recordings. In this recording, ethical responsibilities to clients, colleagues, and in practice settings are discussed. Part 2 of the ethical standards for VSP staff has been developed and released, which discusses ethical responsibilities to community and society, responsibilities as professionals, and responsibilities to victim services profession. OVS requires that both trainings related to the updated ethical standards be completed. Completing both will allow for 1 full hour of training toward annual training requirements. The ethical standards for VSP staff creates the foundation for and addresses the ethical responsibilities required by those who work in the victim services profession, regardless of whether direct services are provided. All program staff must be familiar with and uphold these ethical standards. There are a total of 6 sections of ethical standards for victims services program staff. This PowerPoint presentation covers sections 1, 2, and 3 of the ethical standards. All programs receiving RAZA, VOJO, and/or VOCA funds from PCCD must have staff review and sign an acknowledgement agreeing to uphold the ethical standards. This acknowledgement shall be retained in the employee's personnel folder. OVS staff will need to review the signed acknowledgement forms during programmatic monitoring. Please note that the ethical standards were updated in 2022. Following this training, the program staff contact assigned to your grants can help answer individual questions about the ethical standards. Ethical standards are a key piece to the mission and work of the organization. Ethics are necessary to guide programs and staff in appropriate behaviors, whether working with victims, as colleagues, as community collaborators, and/or with the greater community. This training is intended to provide guidance, keeping in mind it is not all-inclusive of every possible situation that could arise. Every person and case will be different. Ethical values and behavior include a commitment to services, the dignity and worth of the individual, integrity, competence, social justice, confidentiality, self-determination, and the importance of human relationships. Consider the ethical standards as a roadmap to build an ethical mindset in victim services in your agency and in the community. Service providers should be focused on the client's well-being. This is of the utmost importance. They should provide services that recognize a client's needs, minimizes risk, and upholds rights. Considerations also include safety, consent, language needs, educational needs, identifying and reducing barriers, and navigation of processes. Recognizing diversity, cultural differences, competencies, disabilities, and access to services are additional consideration. In addition, grantees must ensure all team members are knowledgeable in their own expertise. In addition to looking at the client's needs, risk, and rights, all service providers need to develop policies that address conflicts of interest and appropriately manage privacy and confidentiality of the client. Conflicts of interest must be identified and addressed immediately so the client may receive best possible services. Having a policy in place that addresses code of conduct and or code of ethics minimizes the risk to clients and workers. Conflicts that should be avoided include, but are not limited to, current and past relationships with clients for personal or business reasons, exploitation, exchanging gifts, and accepting fees. There are several examples of what a conflict of interest may look like. For example, an advocate who assists a victim obtain a PFA and in turn receives a gift card from the client as a thank you gift can be viewed as a conflict. Another example would be assisting someone with transitional housing and the advocate's parent operates an apartment building and the advocate places the client in that building, resulting in a financial gain for the advocate's parent and possibly even the advocate. In instances where a conflict exists that cannot be appropriately managed, the victim shall be referred to another provider. Where dual relationships exist, clear and appropriate boundaries must be set and articulated. Next, victims with privacy and confidentiality must be protected by thorough explanation of options, obtaining consent, providing explanation of outcomes, and limitations of service provider. VSP staff may only disclose confidential information with valid informed consent from a client or a party legally authorized to consent on behalf of the client. PSP staff and volunteers shall not disclose information obtained in the course of professional service, except when it is necessary to prevent serious, foreseeable, and imminent harm to a client or identifiable person, or when laws require disclosure with or without client's consent. VSP staff shall inform clients about the disclosure of confidential information and the potential consequences. Please see the Program Administration and Confidentiality Standards for more information. Having sexual and or romantic relationships with current clients is an ethical violation. Staff and volunteers should not engage in a sexual and or romantic relationship of any kind with former clients where there is a risk of exploitation or potential harm to the former client. Additionally, there should be no physical contact with clients without express consent of the client. This may be difficult in our field, as one might think hugging may seem to be comforting to clients at the end of a long trial, as an example. However, this could create or build on negative feelings for the client, violate their cultural beliefs, personal boundaries, etc. Any unwanted physical contact should not occur, and this goes both ways. An advocate could also feel violated by a client. If a client doesn't respect the advocate's boundaries and continues to display unwanted behaviors toward the advocate, this would also be an ethical violation and should be addressed right away with leadership. ESP staff shall not sexually harass clients, employees, students, trainees, or colleagues. It shall not harass, oppress, or engage in any other form of violence towards supervisors, students, trainees, or colleagues, particularly regarding race, ethnicity, national origin, color, class, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, marital status, political belief, religion, and mental or physical disability. Ethical responsibility also includes continuity of services. Staff will take reasonable steps to continue services in the event of interruptions by program staff factors. Example, unavailability, illness, relocation, etc. In the event of a discontinuation of services, victim service program staff shall discuss a plan for discontinuing services when services are no longer required or no longer serves the client's needs and interests. BSP staff shall make appropriate referrals for services where reasonable progress is not being made, but where additional services may be beneficial, or where the expertise of another professional is needed to serve the client more fully. Ethical responsibilities to colleagues does mirror ethics to clients. Respect, courtesy, fairness, and good faith are important elements to ethical conduct. This includes representing accurately and fairly one's qualifications, views, and obligations of colleagues. Avoiding gossip and unwanted criticism of your colleagues are key factors to being courteous, respectful, and fair to one another. Any personal issues should be put aside when working together to serve the well being of the clients and the program's mission. BSP staff shall respect confidential information shared by colleagues during professional relationships and transactions. Staff shall ensure that colleagues have information regarding their obligations to respect confidentiality and any exceptions related to it. Staff shall not take advantage of a dispute between a colleague and an employer to obtain position or otherwise advance their own interests. They shall not exploit clients in disputes with colleagues or involve clients in any inappropriate discussion of conflicts between program staff and their colleagues. When consulting with colleagues about clients, program staff shall disclose the least amount of information necessary to achieve the purpose of the consultation, respecting the confidentiality guidelines of the program. Staff shall seek the advice and counsel of colleagues whenever such consultation is in the best interests of clients. Staff shall keep themselves informed about colleagues' areas of expertise and competencies. Staff shall seek consultation only from colleagues who have demonstrated knowledge, expertise, and competence related to the subject of the consultation. Confidentiality shall always be upheld. Program staff who refer clients to other professionals shall take appropriate steps to facilitate an orderly transfer of responsibility. Staff who refer clients to other professionals shall disclose only with the client's consent all pertinent information to the new service providers. Victim Services Program staff are prohibited from giving or receiving payment for a referral. Victim Services Program staff who are supervisors or educators shall not engage in sexual or romantic activities or contact with employees, students, trainees, or other colleagues over whom they exercise professional authority. VSP staff shall not engage in sexual or romantic relationships with colleagues when there is a potential for a conflict of interest. Staff who become involved in or anticipate becoming involved in a sexual or romantic relationship with a colleague have a duty to transfer professional responsibilities to avoid a conflict of interest. When possible, staff or colleagues involved in a sexual or romantic relationship should transfer to another facility or work different shifts to avoid awkwardness or other issues. BSP staff, students, trainees, and colleagues shall attend mandatory sexual harassment training updates every 2 years. Annually, the agency's sexual harassment policy will be sent to staff, students, trainees, and colleagues discussing sexual harassment. This policy shall be signed annually and placed in the personnel folder. PCCD staff will review this during the programmatic monitoring process. VSP staff shall not sexually harass employees, students, trainees, or colleagues. They shall not harass, oppress, or engage in any other form of violence towards supervisors, students, trainees, or colleagues, particularly regarding race, ethnicity, national origin, color, class, gender, gender identity, sexual orientation, age, marital status, political belief, religion, and mental or physical disability. PSP staff shall take adequate measures to discourage, prevent, expose, and correct the unethical conduct of colleagues. Staff shall be knowledgeable about established policies and procedures for handling concerns about a colleague's unethical behavior. They shall also be knowledgeable with state and local procedures for handling ethical complaints. Those who believe that a colleague has acted unethically shall seek resolution by discussing their concerns with the colleague when feasible and when such discussion is likely to be productive. When necessary, staff who believe that a colleague has acted unethically shall notify a supervisor and take appropriate action. Victim Services Program staff who have direct knowledge of a colleague's impairment that interferes with their performance shall consult with a supervisor who will then investigate the impairment and address it appropriately. VSP staff who believe that a colleague's impairment interferes with their own ability to perform their duties and or feel that the issue has not been addressed should follow chain of command or other appropriate channels. Example, another supervisor, manager, team leader, or colleague that is in a position to help resolve the issue. The same applies to incompetence. If staff observe a colleague whose incompetence interferes with their ability to perform their duties effectively and or have a concern that has not been addressed appropriately, staff shall contact a supervisor who will then investigate the concerns surrounding the incompetence and address it appropriately. Again, VSP staff who believe that a colleague's incompetence interferes with their own ability to perform their duties and or feels that the issue has not been addressed should follow chain of command or other appropriate channels. Example, another supervisor, manager, team leader, or colleague that is in a position to help resolve the issue. We encourage best practices that colleagues be able to communicate with one another professionally and timely to address concerns. Leadership should be brought in to address more serious issues or concerns that remain unresolved to avoid escalation of impairment or incompetence and its impact on service provision and the healthy relationships among team members. The key takeaway from this slide is if you see something that is concerning, say something. In every practice setting, VSP should maintain accurate client records, ensuring that documentation of all records is accurate, appropriate to the services provided, reflects the services provided, and facilitates the continuity of services. Supervisors shall review client records to ensure documented service accuracy. If an issue with service accuracy is found by the supervisor should notify and discuss the issue with the staff person and complete an addendum to the client record. The addendum should be dated for the date on which the issue was found. VSP staff shall carefully consider the client's needs before agreeing to provide services and shall review the client's needs in a timely manner to avoid delay of services before entering into a relationship with the agency. VSP staff who provide supervision or consultation shall have the necessary knowledge and skill to supervise or consult appropriately. They shall do so only within their areas of knowledge and competence. VSP staff who provide supervision or consultation shall set clear, appropriate, and culturally sensitive boundaries. VSP staff shall not engage with direct reports where there is a risk of exploitation of or potential harm to these staff. VSP staff who provide supervision shall evaluate their staff's performance in a manner that is fair and respectful. PCCD's Program Administration Standard addresses this as well. ESP staff who function as educators or field instructors for students shall take reasonable steps to ensure that clients are routinely informed when services are being provided by students. ESP staff who function as educators or trainers shall provide instruction only within their areas of knowledge and competence. They shall provide instruction based on the most current and accurate information and knowledge available in the profession. Supervision and education are key. Supervisors should act fairly and respectfully. All team members should be committed to the agency and their work, abide by all policies and procedures, and be objective. Administrators are responsible for all fiscal responsibilities, advocating for resources, and for consistently applying and improving agency policies and procedures to support the integrity of the agency. This includes preventing and eliminating discrimination in work assignments and practices. VSP staff who are authorized to make public statements shall clearly distinguish between their personal views and position adopted by the Victim Service Program. Refer to the media standard for additional information. VSP staff shall make diligent use of their organization's resources, wisely conserving funds where appropriate and never misappropriating funds or using them for unintended purposes. Our fiscal management section within PCCD's Program Administration Standards covers this more. VSP staff shall advocate within and outside their organizations for adequate resources to meet client needs. They shall allocate resources in a non-discriminatory manner based on appropriate and consistently applied principles. VSP staff shall work to improve the organization's policies and procedures, as well as the efficiency and effectiveness of its services. VSP staff shall act to prevent and eliminate discrimination in organizational work assignments and employment practices. PCCD's Cultural Responsiveness Standard provides more information on this. Please email or call the program staff contact assigned to your grants with any questions. Thank you.